What's going on, everyone? So the Leprechaun franchise. How do you not love the Leprechaun franchise? I mean, every movie is just a gem, right? Oh, is it a little silly? Is it a little over the top? Is it a little Of course, but that's the beauty of it. It's so fun. I love those films. Even like Leprechaun in the Hood, Leprechaun Back to the Hood, like even those films are great, right? And then obviously the first one with Jennifer Aniston really was the staple, and still to this day looked at as a classic horror film and a classic horror franchise. And we've gotten like Leprechaun Origin, which was pretty much its own thing. And then you had kind of like the requel version, right? And you've had these like recent kind of not super recent, but more recent Leprechaun films. And the question is that the franchise has kind of just been at a hiatus. And there were kind of murmurs and rumors of like, hey, they might kind of reboot this franchise, kind of start from ground zero. And, what is going on with that? Well, we have an update. It looks that the Leprechaun franchise is, in fact, being rebooted. They're going to start over, new vision, new direction, all of that. And Felipe Vargas teases his vision for the franchise reinvention is what is put. And this is from Bloody Disgusting that put out the article. And this is supposed to be, again, a new vision, new direction in the Leprechaun franchise, kind of start to reset the Leprechaun franchise in a more modern way, right? The idea is, according to Vargas, he tells the show, "I'm so honored to be on that project. It's so cool. It's such a cool franchise. To me, what makes the franchise so special is that it really is limitless. It doesn't need to be grounded. It can just be gory, sexy, and crazy. We're still figuring out that tone." Is what, the tone, like how do they want to do they want it to be really gory? Do they want it to be really dark? All that stuff. He continues, and the balance between horror and comedy. Because that's the big thing, right? Like the punchlines that you get in the Leprechaun movie and some of the jokes and, all the little nuances of that film, right? You need to have this balance of, or at least the previous installment had this balance of comedy and horror, right? They need to kind of figure out, okay, what direction are we going with that? Are we going to just lean full-fledged into horror? Are we leaning kind of more into comedy with sprinkled horror? Or are we going to kind of try to find that balance? And what is that balance? Is it 80-20? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40, right? Like, how are you going to approach it? We'll talk about kind of my opinion. Of course, I want to hear your guys' opinions down in the comments of like, what direction do you want to see this franchise go? If that's something you're interested in. But he continued, it doesn't need to be crazy. It can be sexy, gory, sexy, or crazy. We're still trying to figure out that tone and the balance between horror and comedy. I would love for it to be scary as hell and also hilarious. So Vargas wants it to be a better balance. I think we're going back to a lot of the roots of Leprechaun in a lot of different ways, which I'm really excited about. But I think you also want to bring in a new audience, so it's really tricky one to figure out. And then he also said that he wants the vibes and reinvention of the franchise. But one final aspect Vargas touches upon is the effects, which he teases will be practical as possible, which I love. I love that they're going a practical route, kind of keep the aesthetic, which you're seeing a lot like Terrifier and things like that. It's kind of like the trend that's picking back up once again, which I love to see as far as like horror goes. That's the part of my initial pitch. I think the practical effects are so key. Vargas explained to Splattercast in their chat, definitely want to bring that back in a big way. So yes, and at the time, this will be essentially 30 years since the original with Jennifer Aniston got released and brought out. But I'm excited, right? Again, I love the franchise. Right, even the Las Vegas one and all that stuff, part 2, she sneezes once, she sneezes twice, she'll be my bride when she sneezes thrice, right? Like all the little things and stuff. But beyond that, obviously I want a good film. I want to continue the franchise. If you're going to kind of reboot this, right? And I imagine the idea isn't just one movie. I like the sci-fi. We went like direct to sci-fi, was the Leprechaun Legacy or whatever it was. And then you had like the Origin one. The Origin one was like the one that was like terrible. Like it wasn't the Leprechaun. And, and then also you didn't have Warwick Davis, right? There's a big part of me that wants to just, you can sprinkle a little comedy in it, sure, if you want to have like some comedic lines and stuff. But I want it personally kind of lean more towards the horror side of it, the horror, and I wouldn't even mind the gore, right? Because the reason the comedic element was so great was Warwick, right? Like he was so good with his like timing and his punchlines and just the comedic dynamic of that. Unless you can find somebody that can hit those things exactly, I just personally would rather them stick to, like, yeah, you could, of course, you could have some punchlines, even the scare, like even, Terrifier has, its little jokes and stuff, like with Art, waving and doing the honking stuff. Like there's still like comedic elements sprinkled in, right? But that leans more to like the gore and the horror and stuff, right? I don't want the Leprechaun to be like this gore fest, like this crazy, just like over the top gore fest. But that is kind of what it is, right? Like it was a lot of ways kind of censored early, right? Like you have where the guy thinks it's the boobs and he like puts his face in the fan. You don't really get to see you don't see all this craziness. It would have been cool to kind of see that practical effect and face all messed up and stuff like that, right? Like I want to lean towards more horror and then some gore elements, but I don't want it to be just gory just for the sake of being gory. I want there to be a good story. I want there to be a good, I want it to be an entertaining film. Obviously it is, like, I mean, even, where he says, like, it's not something that needs to be grounded. Like, I don't need it or necessarily want it to be grounded. We all know what we're going into when we see a Leprechaun movie, right? We all know it's, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be over the top. It's not this, like, artsy horror film, right? And so I don't want it to pretend to be, I don't want it to turn into something that it's not. Keep it what it is, right? But I don't mind them leaning more into horror, and particularly with what you can get away with in today's times, I really do think you could make a really great kind of Leprechaun film. I think you could get away with a really just solid horror film, kind of right the ship for this franchise. And I guess right the ship is wrong, because I don't really, like, even the Leprechaun in space, I still love those things. Like, I love those movies. So, and again, they are what they are, but kind of bring in a new audience, right? And then kind of establish a new tone going forward. That more darker, brutal tone, right? More modern horror, right? I'm okay with that. I actually personally prefer that and would like to see them go that direction. But that's my opinion, and as always, I'd love to hear yours. So let me know down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with my points? Disagree with my points? Kind of mixed in the middle. How do you want to see this upcoming Leprechaun film be portrayed? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are. Either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel. What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.